When you celebrate Christmas, you commemorate Christmas and you also celebrate the 12 days of Christmas. The 13th day of Christmas, January the 6th, the day of the Epiphany, the day of spiritual transformation. So 13 then is a number which represents spiritual transformation, which is the reason why we have 13 colonies, and which is also the reason why we commemorate the spirit of 76, 76 being 13. But look at this symbol. We have to understand not only the numerological significance of this symbol, but also understand the origins of this symbol. This symbol, the front of the Great Seal of the United States of America, was inspired by this symbol, which we see here, which is the symbol of the African god Osiris. The African god Horus, the son of Osiris. Let's put these two symbols side by side. And here we can clearly see the symbol of the United States of America was inspired by the symbols of ancient Africa. This symbol preceded this symbol by over 5,000 years. And I would like to think that if I were a patent attorney representing the people of ancient Africa, representing the theft or the plagiarization of their symbol, I doubt seriously if I would have any difficulty in proving that this symbol here was inspired by this symbol. But let's go forward and look at some other images that are important. Here we see another shot of the Sphinx. And I want to focus your attention on the stone tablet that stands in between the paws of the Sphinx. Let's take a closer shot, a closer look at this, and see this stone tablet. Study it for a second. Does it look familiar? Does it remind you of anything that you may have seen before? If it does, then let's see if it reminds you of this image. The tombstones came from images, symbols in ancient Egypt. Once again, we have to understand what we are seeing and also what we are not seeing. We are not seeing the African presence associated with these symbols. It is as if we are the best kept secret on the planet. But notice this, the next time you walk around in the cemetery to visit the tomb of a loved one, you will also see some other images that were taken from ancient Africa. Here we also see in the cemetery symbols of Osiris, the first Lord of resurrection, sitting on tops of tombs, which once again underscores the importance, the power that ancient African history, philosophy, religion, and symbolism has had on Western culture and civilization. Now, for us as African Americans, we have to begin to understand the importance of this, but also we have to begin to understand what happens when we have been deprived this knowledge and information. How does it affect us? In the next image, we can begin to get an understanding of this by looking at this cover of Newsweek, which was January the 11th, 1988. It talked about the search for Adam and Eve. Based on a study, scientists at the University of California in Berkeley and the London University were studying the genetic makeup, the mitochondrial DNA of a cross-section of people, all races and all nationalities from all over this planet. They studied the mitochondrial DNA because that is a part of your cell structure that is passed on to you by your mother. And what they discovered was that every person on this planet, all races, all nationalities, had one common denominator, and that was that every person has within their bodies the mitochondrial DNA of an African woman and an African man, which means then, genetically, that all people on this planet are of African descent. This is a very important reality. Let's move on to the next image and begin to understand how this knowledge and information, or the lack of this knowledge and information, has impacted upon us. Here we see a profile of Stevie Wonder as he has worn his hair for many years in a braided dreadlock fashion. This hairstyle is not a hairstyle that can be attributed to Bo Derek. It did not begin with her. This is a hairstyle that goes back thousands of years in the African tradition. In the next image, we see here a profile of a Sphinx. And here you can see the Sphinx clearly wears his hair in the same manner, the same braided dreadlock fashion that we saw Stevie Wonder wearing his hair, which once again underscores the ethnicity of these people, the ethnicity of this particular hairstyle. But let's look at some other images. Every person, I think, is familiar with this image here. This is the African pharaoh King Tut, the boy king. We've seen this image as it was carried throughout the United States of America. Millions of people saw this exhibit. Millions of people still have seen this image in hundreds and hundreds of books. But the question that I would like to present to you this evening, how many of you have ever seen the back of the mask of King Tut? You've never seen the back of the mask because the back of this statue will clearly illustrate his ethnicity. And I would like to share with you today the back of the mask. So let's see it. Let's see what you have not seen. Stylized version of African hair, African braided hair, the plaits, the cornrows, which once again fully illustrates who these people were. There is supposedly a controversy as to who the ancient Egyptians were. Were they black? Were they white? When you study the history and culture, you will find that from the very beginnings, this was purely an African culture, an African civilization. It was not until late in the history of ancient Kemetians, ancient Egyptians, that they became invaded by foreigners and that the essence, the complexion of these people began to change. Important to know, to be able to compare this history with contemporary history, in that if we look at Columbus's discovery of America, we have to know that Columbus could not have proven that the world was round if we know that it was proven over 5,000 years earlier by Africans. It's important to know African history and African culture and to pass that knowledge and information on. I'm Tony Browder with the Institute of Karmic Guidance, and I hope you appreciate this view of the African contributions to Western culture and civilization.